September the 10th, 2025. It is a somber day. If you missed my broadcast earlier, and if you haven't been paying attention to the news, we lost a wonderful man of God today. Charlie Kirk was shot at Utah University during a speaking engagement with a very large crowd. He was shot in the neck, and he did not make it. So, yeah, very sad day. Going to be a pretty short broadcast. I'm not going to allow something like this, and I don't think he would want to something like this to allow the world to stop. Although I do believe that this will make him a martyr, and it should make him a martyr. You know, if Satan or if somebody determines in their heart to try and stop any one of us by simply taking one of us out, they're sorely mistaken. If anything, this energizes and encourages us to speak louder because obviously we're on the right path. So let's move on. Let's get on with our review of what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are saying today about this, because their attention is certainly on this. So in honor of Charlie Kirk, a truly great American patriot, I am ordering all American flags throughout the United States lowered to half-mast until Sunday evening at 6 p.m. The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me. And now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you. And this is earlier. There was news had come out that he was in critical condition, and this is what Donald Trump had posted. We must all pray for Charlie Kirk, who has been shot. A great guy from top to bottom. God bless him. And then I don't know if there's anything else here that really matters for today. Yeah, I guess there is. Okay. What's with Russia's violating Poland's airspace with drones? Here we go. It seems like the adversary seems like the spiritual fight is ramping up. Charlie was very close to many of our hearts. For those of you who, may have listened to him, I know I was among his audience, one of his subscribers, and loved listening to him talk. He was one of those people who bridged the divide. He oozed loving God and loving your neighbor as yourself. He wasn't afraid to debate anybody about anything. And in fact, that's exactly what he was doing. He was there for a civil debate. So things are ramping up. What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? And then this says Dems endanger femmes. What does that say? I don't know what that says. Dems endanger something. This just out. No inflation. Too late. Must lower the rate. Big right now. Powell. Okay. Doesn't matter. The animal who so violently. Yeah. See this kind of stuff. I guess this is relevant. The animal who so violently killed the beautiful young lady from Ukraine who came to America searching for peace and safety. That's an interesting use of a phrase for when they say peace and safety. Should be given a quick, there is no doubt, trial and only awarded the death penalty. There can be no other option. President Donald J. Trump. Thank you, Lenny. Great to be a winner. Let's see. Really doesn't matter. India and the U.S. are close friends and natural partners. I'm confident that your trade negotiations, again, doesn't really matter. And that's pretty much the stuff that matters on Trump's posts. And then let's look at Elon Musk. All right. This gets even worse when you consider that Charlie Kirk, more than anyone else in America on the right or left, built his platform, making a good faith effort to model civil political discourse and debate in the public square. His entire project was built on reaching across the divide. Isn't that what I just said? And using speech, not violence, to address and resolve the issues. Yeesh. Oh, so this is from JD Vance, reposted by Elon Musk. This is such a good point. If you actually watch Charlie's events as opposed to the fake summaries, they are one of the few places with an open and honest dialogue between left and right. He would answer any question and talk to everyone. And not just the left and the right, even people who are on the same, even people who disagreed with him on the right, because he was definitely considered himself on the right. Yeah, even earlier today, we'd watched a short of him debating of another Christian who disagreed with him about, bringing politics and religion together. To which Charlie Kirk made a very good point that the entire Bible was about religion and politics. Whether you agreed with him or not, Charlie Kirk is dead purely because some people didn't like what he had to say. That should outrage every single one of us. The left-wing mainstream media, as well as figures like Gavin Newsom, claiming Trump plans to be a dictator, has created a climate of hysteria against right-wing figures that could radicalize any number of unstable people to engage in political violence. Pray Charlie Kirk is okay. Elon said exactly. So these are posts, obviously, before the news came out. The shot looked real bad, but I sure hope Charlie makes it somehow. The left lectured us for the last decade about the dangers of violence from the right, from the assassination attempts of President Trump to Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, being murdered. Now to Charlie Kirk, the danger was actually on the left. It seems like there's I wonder if this isn't part of the harvest, to where, because I know a lot of, people who considered themselves to be Democrats, who have come over to the right because of the things that have happened over the course of the last 7 to 8 years. The whole walkaway movement. Things like that, the walkaway movement. And it seems like, those who still remain on the left are, there's still some extremists over there. That's for sure. It's just my opinion. Elon just comes right out and says it. The left is the party of murder. The devil was a murderer from the beginning, so therefore the left is the party of the devil. Which it's interesting because that goes hand in hand with what it is that we've been studying in Revelation 13 and 14, to where the mark of the beasts is the mark of the devil, right? So, and we just a reminder, I think I am of the opinion now. I'm getting pretty confident in this opinion that the mark of the beast has nothing to do with technology, has nothing to do with let me just say it plainly. I think it has to do with a belief, with a religion. Whatever it was that radicalized that man to assassinate Charlie Kirk, he had taken the mark of the beasts. And even those who may not have risen to that level of extreme violence to where they feel like they need to take somebody else's life, it's who owns you. And that's the mark that's written in your forehead. And the contrast is I think we can get an idea of what that mark is by looking at the mark on the 144,000. So Revelation 14 says that the 144,000 are the first fruits, and the mark that's on their forehead is the Lamb's father's name. Here, let's go look at this. So we have down here, we have, let's just read the context here. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, and that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Like Charlie. he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their forehead, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And what really gives that away, I think, is this. Then I looked, and behold, so this is the next verse after the mark of Revelation 13 that talks about the mark on the right hand or the forehead. Then I looked, and behold, a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written on their foreheads. So the 144,000 had the lamb's father's name written on their foreheads. That's who owns the 144,000. So the name you have, the one you follow, as the one you serve, as the one who owns you, it seems as though that is the mark. This would be the mark of the Father. The other is the mark of the beasts, in contrast to this. Notice this isn't the lamb's name. I think that's part of the deception. So whatever that name is, and I have an opinion, but I think it's a broad category because the right mark to have, the lamb's father's name. Anything other than that, if you're owned by anything other than that, if you serve anything other than the lamb's father, beware. You may very well be treading on being marked on the right hand or the forehead. All right, let's get back to Elon. Look, I think I can handle making humans a multiplanetary, not really relevant today. Legacy news, like Associated Press, is super racist. Yep. More accurate. Okay. All right. Well, I think that probably is about it. It's a sad day. I hope that once we get past this, that this has the complete opposite effect than what the shooter had intended for this to have. Right? The devil was given authority to continue for 42 months to persecute the saints. And make no mistake, Charlie Kirk was a saint. He was loving God and loving his neighbor as himself. And he was a sterling example of what that means. Somebody had asked me today, do I think he's one of the two witnesses? He was at the top of my list, along with other figures like Jordan Peterson, Alex Jones. You think of people who torment the world and who speak out every single day. Charlie Kirk was definitely one of those people who was speaking out every single day. Now, I eliminated him as one of my picks based on the data for various reasons. One of which is, as often as he does speak, it's not every day. But to this point, what if he is one of the two witnesses? Will we see him rise again in 3.5 days? Well, I guess that depends on what happens from here. I don't think anybody is going to stop him from being buried. I still think we have a lot of time left, about 3 years. If you saw the count on the title today, 233 days in from what the only starting point I know right now. So it looks like we have still roughly 1,030 days left. Could be wrong about that. But yeah, I mean, what happens from here will be telling. But what I hope does happen is that this is a rally call, that he is now a martyr who energizes those who might have been sleeping, who might be whining that the Lord has delayed his return. And that's probably going to happen. We're in September, Rapture-tember. This is typically the month where people have dreams and visions that the rapture is going to happen for sure, and then after it doesn't happen, suddenly they disappear until next September, or they conveniently forgot that they made those claims. Or you know where I'm going with that. Which reminds me, I do have the URL for the app for you guys to start using. We'll talk about that here in a minute. I hope that that the martyr of that Charlie Kirk is a martyr as a result of this, that it stirs a movement for those who might be sitting on their ass to start speaking up and mirroring his example. Engage in loving debate. Cross the aisle. That's why the devil killed him. That's why Satan wanted him dead. That's why whoever thought that it was the right thing to do to shoot him did what he did, is because he thought he needed to be silenced. Well, the exact opposite of that needs to happen. We need to let our light so shine. Be like Charlie. Matter of fact, maybe we should start a campaign. Be like Charlie Kirk. Be like Kirk. Be like Charlie Kirk. And cross the divide. Love God and love your neighbor as yourself. We'll see. We'll see what the days ahead bring. Well, one thing's for sure is it very likely seems like we're in the end times. He doesn't have, he may very well be one of the first ones to get his white robe, because we're coming up here on very likely seal number 5 in February. I'm of the opinion that the seals are opened when eclipses happen, very specific eclipses, and the one in February fits the pattern. So I'm of the opinion that seal number 5 is going to be opened in February 2026. And that's when the saints who have died say, "How much longer, Lord?" And they're given white robes and told to wait a little bit longer. So this may very well be what stirs up what the things that need to happen. This could very well be a turning point, which is very interesting. It'll be interesting if that's what happens. Shows God's sense of humor. If the assassination of Charlie Kirk is actually a turning point in these end time events, if it doesn't start something, if you know what I mean. So be like Charlie. Well, I don't have much else to share with you guys. I can show you what we have with the app. So you can find this. This is the website. You can find it at prophecy. So it's app.prophecy.claims. If you try to just go to prophecy.claims or prophecyclaims.com, you're not going to see anything. The reason is I'm going to be putting up a website at prophecy.claims, which it'll be the landing page, and it'll also be responsible for displaying the timelines. So the app, if you want to start beta testing this thing for me, is app.prophecy.claims. This is what it looks like. This is what you'll see when you go there. This will is very shortly, probably this week, I'll submit this to the Android market so that you can install it as an app from your for your phone. But for now, it's just a website URL. Again, that's app.prophecy.claims. And there's no real complicated authentication system. You literally just put in your email. It'll send you an email. You confirm it that it's your email, and then you'll use that same process to log in. And it should, once you log in, if you keep the same URL, it'll just keep you logged in. I'll show you what it looks like here. Oh, you have to click the button. It doesn't work if you just hit enter. I'll fix that eventually. I'm still in the process of setting things up, so you may get an error about not being able to send an email. like it's rate limited. I'm currently setting up the email server to be able to send a lot more emails. I think it's limited to like 2 emails a minute or something like that. So if too many of you hit the website to try and log in, just know that if you get one of those errors, just try again. Like I said, I literally just wrote this week, a couple days ago. And the reason I'm doing it in this order is this is just the starting point to give people a place to, basically it gives you a form to start submitting claims. So the way it works is you'll probably see an empty dashboard here. So I'll show you what it looks like. Get rid of all my stuff. Geez, how many did I do? Last 2. There you go. So this is what you'll see when you first first log in. It'll just say no claims yet, submit one. You got 3 buttons up here. The far right one is log out. The middle one is to go to the form to add claims. And you just put in your claim. So type in what you want, give some tags, and then here's really where you can add stuff. So you can add in, text. And you have to click add after each one of these things, because what you're doing is you're recording the records. So if you want to add some, descriptive text, if you want to add, an image, if you want to add a video, you can upload a video, which they're pretty, don't make them too big. As we scale up, you'll be able to upload bigger images and bigger videos. But right now we're at bare minimums. Like the servers are literally just brand new. I haven't paid for a whole lot, just to get started to see how this works. If you want, you can just hit record and start talking and save the recording and then click add. So if I wanted to record here, I can do that, which it might not work because I'm using the microphone. Anyway, so you'd hit that, hit record, and then add the recording here. If you want to you want to put a link on there. If you want to submit like a time frame, so like if there's a specific date, so say maybe you want, September 23rd, 2017, you can add that as a time frame on there. If you want to do a date range, you can do date ranges. If there's scriptures that are associated with, if this is a prophecy fulfillment, you can add the different scriptures which are associated with it. And then when you have multiple entries here, you'll be able to link them together. So like if you wanted to do like Revelation 12, 1 and 2, and then you want to say, this is linked, Revelation 12, 3 and 4 is linked to Revelation 12, 1 and 2, you'll be able to do that. And then you'll just click submit, either this one or this one down here. And then if this doesn't refresh, which I'm working on this, it's a bug, you can just hit this little circle right there, refresh. And that's your claim. So, and it's set up so you can edit it as you gain new information. We'll add features on here. Like if we want to, record a dream, somebody had a dream and, it has a fulfillment on a certain date. We'll add a feature like, did this happen? So if you wanted to put a dream on here that somebody on YouTube said, now would be a good time to start recording all the people who are saying that the rapture is going to happen in September, because then we'll add a little flag on here on whether it came true or not. And then we'll be able to start identifying people who are false prophets. But anyway, that's not really the heart of this. It's not really to call out false prophets, although we can use it for that. And maybe that becomes a feature. The primary objective is to use this as a means to identify when prophecy is fulfilled. Because Jesus told us in John 14 that the reason he told us these things before they started to happen is so that we may believe, so that you may believe. And I think that those who are written in the Lamb's Book of Life, things like this are going to be necessary. They're going to need to see that it was prophesied about before it happened, and then it happened. And this will be a way of proving that. So what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to take this data and display it on a timeline. So that's the thing I'm going to start working on today. That's why this is super basic. It's literally just a form to start submitting data. It's super basic. We can, evolve it as we want to, add features. If you want to be able to share, your particular claim, maybe make it public and then people can see them. We can add comments. Uh, you know, Sky's the limit, really. So the next thing on my agenda, though, is now that this is deployed, I'm going to go make a front page for prophecy.claims because right now it's just nothing, which will point to this app. And then I'll start working on probably a rudimentary timeline that will just display whatever people have posted. Maybe I'll put a review process on there so people don't abuse this, because I imagine there's going to be scammers and haters. Haters are always going to hate. But then we'll just continue to evolve it from there. The next thing will be to get it submitted into the App Store and then add new features. So we got that ready for you guys. Right now there's no cost. I have no intention to turn this into like a money-making business of any kind. I will very likely add a link for like buy me a beer or something, buy me a coffee, to help pay the hosting costs, depending on how much it gets used. Like if 20,000 people are using this, we're going to need serious money to pay the bills. It is set up to be very efficient though. So it should be able to grow with us as we use it. So there you go. As promised, that is the app. All right. So it has been such a sad day. And also, yeah, there was another school shooting. I heard the shooting was here in Colorado. Yeesh. The devil knows he has a short time. The time is short. Well, I don't have anything else. Do you guys need anything? Anybody have any questions before I go? All righty. Let's see. Activating the Pope to take Second Amendment coming. Yeah, I do expect. I'm expecting a religious war. That's really what I expect to see in the next 3.5 years. I expect to continue to see things like this happen, and it's going to continue to energize and cause division. I can't help but think that the point of the harvest that's talked about in the scripture in the end time is to separate the wheat from the tares. And who you serve makes you wheat or a tare. It makes you fruitful or it makes you worthless. And I believe you're marked when you're worthless to God. You become a tare. And I think we're going to see a continued separation. It's very likely. It seems very much like that second beast from the sea is of a religious nature. I think people are going to become more radicalized. You're going to see more of this. There's going to be more insistence on declaring who you serve, which is probably the point of that no man may buy or sell, save he who has the mark or the number or the name. So if you want to have the right mark, it should be the Lamb's Father's name. That's the nice thing about Revelation 13 and 14 is the right answer. Anything other than, and I know some people think that, the vaccine was the mark, or they're convinced that Neuralink is the mark, or any number of other things. It seems religious in nature. It seems to be a belief based on the fact that the 144,000 have the Lamb's Father's name written on their forehead. It seems to me that any other name written on your forehead, and having a name written on your forehead shows ownership. Who do you belong to? And you might be tempted to think, well, I belong to Jesus. You should know Jesus never pointed people to himself. He always pointed people to his Father. And that's very much in line with Exodus 20. Have no other gods before the true God. Bow down, don't make any idols or image of anything on earth, heaven, or the sea. Jesus always pointed people to his Father. He said, he always pointed people to, it's just that's who he was. He never said, he never made any claims about himself. The only thing that he said about himself was that he was the way to the Father. The way, the truth, and the life. No man comes unto the Father but by me. The destination being the Father, not him. And the reason why I bring that up is Scripture talks about a great deception coming. And it would not surprise me, and I believe it's very likely that the devil will counterfeit things you love. And, he can go by any other name. You know what I mean? So I think the distinction in Revelation 14 about it being the Lamb's Father's name is specific for a reason. It doesn't say the Lamb's name. It says the Lamb's Father's name. And my opinion is that that's Yahweh, Jehovah, Adonai, El Shaddai. The names commonly attributed to the Father. So that's the right answer. That's whose name we should have written on our foreheads. You know what? I think I'm going to do something with that to illustrate that some more. And that was the beautiful thing about Charlie Kirk, just to end it, talking about him, is he pointed people to the Father. He pointed people to the Word. He had a deep love of the Scripture. Matter of fact, that the last couple of days, that's a lot of what he talked about was the Scripture and politics. So I think I'll leave you guys there with that. God bless you guys. Shalom.